May thy servant Camilla, who wears this crown, be filled by thine abundant grace and with all princely virtues.
In a stunning turn of events that has captured global attention, the British royal family has just made a major announcement about Queen Camilla's future, and it's nothing short of historic. Long seen as a quiet force beside King Charles, Camilla is now stepping into a bold new chapter that's redefining her role in the monarchy.
Being certain of thy protection, she may be crowned with thy gracious favor, through Jesus Christ our Lord.
So, what does this mean for the future of the crown? How did Camilla react to this news? Join us as we uncover the shocking announcement by the royal family on Queen Camilla's future role. The shocking announcement. For years, Camilla fought hard to prove she belonged beside King Charles. She endured criticism, public judgment, and the long, painful legacy left behind by Princess Diana. Slowly, she worked to rebuild her image, step by step, trying to gain the respect of a nation that had never fully accepted her. And just when it seemed she had found her place, everything changed in a single moment. On a calm afternoon, Prince William and Princess Catherine arrived at a charity in southeast England to meet with children who had lost loved ones. To the public, it seemed like just another kind-hearted royal visit. Reporters expected warm smiles, soft speeches, and well-planned photo ops. But what came next stunned the world. As the cameras rolled and reporters clutched their microphones, Prince William stepped forward, not just as a future king, but as a man with a mission. In a strong, clear voice, he made an announcement that few had expected. A bold, new royal initiative that would shift responsibilities within the monarchy. It was a decision that seemed to push Queen Camilla's influence aside, leaving her future hanging by a thread. For months, there had been quiet talk of tension behind palace doors. Some said Catherine's growing popularity was becoming a problem for Camilla. Others whispered about a silent struggle for power. But no one imagined the royal family would make such a dramatic move and do it so publicly. As William spoke, the reaction was instant. Crowds gasped. News anchors paused mid-sentence. Around the world, people watched history unfold in real time. Suddenly, the story wasn't about tradition. It was about change. It was about the future. And it was about whether Queen Camilla still had a role in it. Inside Buckingham Palace, the air turned heavy. The old walls, decorated with portraits of kings and queens long gone, seemed to listen as the news echoed through the grand halls. Staff members looked at each other with wide eyes, their daily routines shaken. Royal advisors gathered in small groups, speaking in hushed tones. Some feared Prince William had gone too far, too fast. Others admired his bravery and his willingness to challenge old ways. By his side, Catherine stood like a calm and gracious queen-in-waiting. Though her expression remained peaceful, those who knew her could sense her mind racing. She wasn't just a quiet supporter. She was a key part of this change, standing firmly by her husband as the royal world shifted around them. Queen Camilla was nowhere to be seen, but she was not forgotten. And she was certainly not finished. Her closest allies moved quickly, making calls, sending messages, and arranging urgent meetings with King Charles. They knew this was no ordinary moment. This was a turning point, a battle for the soul of the monarchy. As night fell over London, casting long, moody shadows across the palace windows, a sense of suspense settled over the city. The story was no longer about ceremonies and crowns. It was about loyalty, ambition, and the quiet but powerful struggles within the royal family. Queen Camilla would not simply step aside. She had come too far and fought too hard. So, could problems keep building up? Let's take a closer look. The rising tension. By the time the first light of dawn touched the rooftops of the palace, the newspapers had already delivered their verdict. The kingdom was split in two. Outside the palace gates, people gathered in growing numbers. Some cheered for Prince William and Princess Catherine, proud of the bold and modern path they were paving. But others stood quietly, shaking their heads with worried eyes, afraid that centuries of royal tradition were crumbling before their very eyes. Inside the palace, however, something even more powerful was stirring. In rooms that smelled of polished wood and freshly arranged flowers, a silent storm was brewing. Queen Camilla, normally the image of elegance and poise, was now a whirlwind of emotion. Her calm exterior had cracked, and in its place burned a fiery storm of disbelief and fury. It was whispered that she had barely slept a wink. Instead, she had spent the night pacing her private chambers, playing William's speech over and over in her mind, analyzing every word for a weakness she could exploit, a moment she could use to take back control. Loyal courtiers, veterans of palace politics who had stood by her during her rise, gathered around her, whispering strategies, pleading for patience. But Camilla's thoughts had already drifted elsewhere. She couldn't stop thinking about Catherine and Charlotte. The image of the young princess stepping into the spotlight had pierced straight through Camilla's heart. It wasn't just a child waving to the cameras. It was a message, loud and clear. A new chapter was being written, and Camilla feared she was being written out of it. King Charles, meanwhile, had pulled back into a quiet and troubling silence. He avoided the press. He even avoided his own family. Some believed he was simply exhausted, worn down by years of royal duty. But others whispered a more unsettling idea, that the king was slowly, silently, surrendering his authority. And in that silence, the monarchy felt as delicate as fine china, with one misstep threatening to crack it beyond repair. Reporters outside fought for any hint of new information, while inside, Camilla clenched her teeth and made a vow deep within herself. She would not fade into the background. She would not let history forget her. No matter what it took, she would fight for her place. As sunlight spread across the palace corridors, Queen Camilla locked herself in a room with her most trusted advisors. Her voice, once calm and refined, now rang with a sharp, cold edge. She was done playing nice. "I will not be outshined," she said, her voice cutting through the anxious murmurs of her team. Not after everything she had endured, not after earning her role, piece by painful piece over so many years. But haunting memories rose up like ghosts. Diana, always Diana. Even in death, her legacy seemed to reach out and cast a shadow over Camilla's every move. Now, it was happening again, only this time through Catherine, with young Charlotte as a new symbol of the future. Camilla's mind raced. Should she make a strong public appearance? Release a statement to the press? Anything to remind the world that she was still here, still relevant, still the queen consort. But something had changed. The loyalty that once held her up was slowly slipping away. Palace aides, who had stood firmly behind her and the king, were beginning to shift their loyalties, quietly, but unmistakably, toward William and Catherine. They saw the tide turning. They felt the winds of change. And then there was Charles. His lack of support stung more than she dared admit. In the past, she had always counted on him to stand beside her. But now, his quiet felt like abandonment. She was being left to fight alone. And yet, the calm presence of Catherine only made it worse. While Camilla felt threatened, Catherine offered reassurance. She didn't need to raise her voice or seek attention. She simply was, and people loved her for it. Her power came not from titles, but from something much deeper: quiet strength, kindness, and a sense of calm that won over hearts without even trying. But what was Prince William's role in all of this? Let's find out. William's silent revolution. While Queen Camilla whispered behind closed doors, making careful plans in secret, Prince William stood tall in the open, with a calm confidence that surprised even those closest to him. For months he had felt it deep inside. Change was not just needed, it was urgent. The monarchy could no longer survive by clinging to old traditions. If it didn't adapt, it would slowly fade into something forgotten. But knowing that, and actually taking bold steps to make it happen, were two very different things. Now, under the bright lights of the world's attention, William had finally acted. He spoke with grace and strength, honoring his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, for her decades of loyal service. But in the same breath, he gently pointed toward a different path, a monarchy that was more open, more modern, and more connected to the people it served. In that moment, he didn't just speak as a royal. He drew a line that divided the past from the future. The message was clear. Things would never be the same again. Standing just behind him was Catherine, the Princess of Wales, as calm and composed as ever. She didn't need to speak to make her presence felt. Every glance, every small gesture showed the world that she supported her husband fully, and that together they were shaping something new. And by their side stood young Princess Charlotte, graceful and steady beyond her years. Though still so young, she had already been chosen to carry a powerful symbol, the future of royal service. Her presence alone was a message. The crown was not stuck in the past. It now belonged to the next generation. For Prince William, this moment was about far more than good publicity. It wasn't a rebellion or a scandal. It wasn't some shocking royal twist. It was something quieter, but far more powerful. It was a peaceful revolution. He knew the risks. The media might twist his words. The traditionalists might shout in protest. Camilla's disapproval could stir up fresh tensions inside the palace. But none of that shook his belief. William saw the monarchy not as a dusty relic trapped in time, but as a living promise, one that could grow and change, just like the people it served. Catherine shared that belief. She understood that real trust came from openness, honesty, and compassion. The world didn't want fairy tales anymore. It wanted real leaders who cared, who listened, who showed up not just with crowns and titles, but with hearts. Together, William and Catherine had made a promise to raise their children in a world where royalty meant responsibility, not just ceremony. They had vowed to guide their family with kindness and courage, no matter what storms lay ahead. And then came Charlotte's moment, a moment that no one, not even she, could have expected. The royal announcement had barely settled before headlines exploded. Charlotte steps into history. Just a young teen, she suddenly found herself at the center of a powerful shift. She stood beside her parents, calm and poised, with a quiet strength that stunned even the harshest critics of the monarchy. Wearing a simple powder blue coat and her hair neatly parted, Charlotte looked like any well-behaved schoolgirl. But her eyes told a deeper story. They held the calm focus of her mother, the gentle grace of her late grandmother, Princess Diana, and the awareness that she now carried something bigger than herself. She was no longer just the sweet little princess waving from palace balconies. She was now seen as a leader in training, a young royal who would help carry the weight of a changing world. When Prince William announced that Charlotte would begin accompanying the family on official royal duties, it marked a bold break from centuries of male-dominated royal tradition. It wasn't just a new schedule. It was a statement. The future of the royal family would be built on equality, side by side, as one. The press quickly dubbed her the People's Princess 2.0, comparing her natural charm and warm smile to the unforgettable Diana. Social media lit up with admiration as people around the world praised Charlotte's elegance, maturity, and potential. But inside the palace, things weren't so simple. While the public cheered and the future seemed to shine brightly, behind those thick stone walls, trouble was brewing. Queen Camilla saw things very differently. To her, Charlotte was not a symbol of hope, but a symbol of change she hadn't asked for, a quiet threat to everything she had worked so hard to build. And so, as the world looked forward with excitement, the palace looked inward with unease. But what exactly did King Charles have to say about the situation? Let's take a closer look. The King's silence. As the world watched and analyzed every moment of young Princess Charlotte's sudden rise into the spotlight, one voice was strangely silent, the voice of King Charles himself. This silence was unsettling. Here was a king who once spoke with energy about modernizing the monarchy and guiding it into the future. Now, his quietness echoed through the grand halls of Buckingham Palace like a ghost. Official palace sources said the king was just tired. They blamed it on his packed schedule and the heavy weight of royal duties. But behind closed doors, the whispers told a different story, one filled with disappointment and sorrow. Some close to the king revealed that Charles felt pushed aside, as if his own son's bold vision and the public's excitement over Princess Charlotte had stolen the spotlight from him. For a man who had waited nearly his entire life to become king, this new chapter was not what he had dreamed of. Rumors swirled that Charles had withdrawn to a quiet estate in the countryside, far from the cameras and public events. He wasn't just avoiding the media, he was avoiding Queen Camilla too. She, it was said, was furious. She couldn't stand the way her role had been overshadowed, her efforts forgotten while the world cheered for the younger royals. Inside the palace, his absence was causing more than concern. It was causing confusion. Royal aides and courtiers didn't know where to place their loyalties anymore. With each passing day that King Charles stayed silent, Prince William's quiet leadership looked more and more like real power. So, was Camilla's reaction friendly or as usual? Let's find out. Camilla's rage. The royal palace had seen trouble before, but never a storm quite like this. Not like the rage that boiled inside Queen Camilla after Prince William's shocking announcement. While the world outside was still buzzing with excitement, inside the palace walls, Camilla was a whirlwind of fury. The calm, elegant queen consort that people usually saw had vanished. Now she was pacing up and down the grand golden halls like a trapped lioness, her heels echoing against marble floors, her voice trembling with anger. She demanded answers. How could they go ahead with such a huge decision without even asking her? How could they praise young Princess Charlotte, still just a child in her eyes, as the face of the monarchy's future, while she, the queen consort, who had fought so hard for her place, was suddenly treated as if she didn't matter? Her voice rose, sharp and heartbroken, bouncing off the high ceilings and old portraits of monarchs long gone. Her cries weren't just about politics. They came from a woman who had spent her life battling gossip, scandal, and rejection just to stand beside her husband, the king. Advisors, alarmed by the queen's emotional storm, tried to calm her down. They spoke gently, warning her that the public adored Charlotte and would see any attack as jealousy. But Camilla wasn't listening. To her, this wasn't just about being left out. It was about being erased. Everything she had endured, every wound she had swallowed for the sake of the crown, was now being brushed aside. Whispers of her outbursts spread like wildfire. There were teary arguments with King Charles, who now seemed frozen in his own world of confusion and silence. Even Princess Anne, usually loyal to Camilla in private, kept her distance. No one wanted to take sides. The royal household was slowly splitting into camps, like an ancient ship beginning to crack under pressure. Meanwhile, outside the palace gates, crowds cheered. They held up signs for Charlotte and praised the new direction. But Camilla wasn't done. Behind velvet curtains and locked doors, her closest allies began to gather. They whispered strategies and counted who was still loyal. Camilla knew that if she didn't act quickly, history would forget her. She would become nothing more than a passing name, left behind as the future marched on. And that thought chilled her to the bone. So she made a vow to protect her crown, to fight for her place, no matter the cost, even if it meant going against the very future William and Catherine were trying to build. While all this was unfolding, Catherine, Princess of Wales, moved like a quiet force of nature. She didn't shout, she didn't panic, she didn't step into the drama. Instead, she kept her focus sharp and steady, like someone who had been preparing for this very moment for years. Catherine understood something powerful. True leadership wasn't about titles or declarations. It was about trust, the kind of trust that grew slowly and deeply in the hearts of the people. So she acted with calm and purpose. Every gentle smile, every warm gesture toward Charlotte, every kind word to palace staff. It was all part of her quiet plan to hold the royal family together while gently guiding it toward a better future.
With Catherine beside him, our new Prince and Princess of Wales will, I know, continue to inspire and lead our national conversations, helping to bring the marginal to the center ground.
She expected Camilla to fight back. She was ready for it. Behind closed doors, she met with trusted aides, shaping the public story so no one could twist Charlotte's hopeful moment into scandal. She reminded William to stay focused on the big picture. "Let the anger pass," she said. "Don't get pulled into personal battles. Show the world a royal family that listens, that cares, that grows." Catherine's strength was in her stillness. She didn't need to threaten or scheme. She inspired people with kindness and calm. Even young advisors, and some old ones too, found themselves drawn to her. They saw in her something rare, a leader who didn't need to shout to be heard. She had spent years quietly watching and learning how the public reacted to royal mistakes, how truth and compassion could win back hearts when ceremony and tradition failed. And now, all that quiet wisdom was beginning to shine. While Camilla struggled and raged, Catherine's steady grace was winning over the public imagination. Charlotte was no longer just a little princess. She was becoming a symbol of hope and change. And it was all happening without fireworks, without drama. Just love, patience, and the silent strength of a woman who knew that the most powerful battles are sometimes won without ever raising your voice. In that calm, Catherine carried the future of the monarchy, and the world was beginning to notice. What are your thoughts on the shocking announcement about the future of Camilla by the royal family? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe.